Welcome back. This is apple cider vinegar and seltzer water, which if you haven't heard me talk about it before, it's delicious and probably the only reason that I hydrate in the summer, other than it also being 105 degrees outside, which is also why I hydrate in the summer. But today's recipe is going to be also about the summer, and it's using summer vegetables that I think are really slept on because they're designed to be like stewy, cooked down vegetables. Like they're just better when they're cooked. And in the summer, like you don't want to cook anything. So today we're gonna be making kind of like a pasta salad. We're using eggplant and zucchini. Both of these get a bad rap. I didn't like eggplant for the longest time. And zucchini I just thought was pretty boring. Like I thought it was just very wet, very slimy, and I just realized I was using them the wrong way. Also, I've been grating zucchini like a crazy person lately. I've put it into cookies, I put it into risotto. Basically, I've been grating a lot of zucchini, and every time I grate it, it releases so much moisture, so I was like, now's the time to put it into a sauce. So this is gonna be a pearl couscous pasta salad with zucchini chimichurri. And if that's not my finest innovation, I don't know what is. Oh God, okay. Okay, my food processor is in an easy to reach space, but it's still mentally difficult for me to get it out. And I tell people this all the time. I'm like, if your food processor is small, so like a 5-cup one, then you're gonna be 10 times more likely to use it than if it's like a big food processor, because it's just easier to clean, easier to have. And also if it's in an easy to reach space, then getting out a food processor is not this like huge chore. However, I also don't follow my own advice because that took me 30 seconds and I'm exhausted. So I'll need to rework that. But we're gonna make the chimichurri first. And chimichurri traditionally is made with parsley, but I'm using cilantro just because I like it better. But you can use parsley if you have that cilantro gene, which I'm not doubting that you have. I know that's a real thing. I'm grateful every day I don't have it though, because parsley's like not, of the tender herbs, parsley is not my favorite. I think my favorite would have to be mint. No, my favorite's cilantro actually. Because I knew you were wondering. The reason I'm still calling this chimichurri, even though it definitely leans into a lot of different green sauce territory, but the reason I'm really calling it a chimichurri is because we're relying a lot on red wine vinegar instead of lemon or lime or another acid, and we're also going to use dried oregano instead of cumin or coriander, which would put it into other green sauce territory. So we have cilantro, 1 jalapeno, 3 garlic cloves. Let's make it 4. About a teaspoon of oregano, 1/3 cup of olive oil, and 1/4 cup of red wine vinegar. You can also eyeball it, but I measure so that you don't have to. Oh, and then salt. Really? Who's causing this alarm? And then salt. I'm gonna do 1/2 teaspoon. I've kind of been recently just keeping my 1/2 teaspoon in my salt thing because my friend and I were talking about how we cannot stand when our hands are wet. We pinch salt and then it's like all over our fingers, so for that reason. And then also it's nice to be able to give you guys like a measurement of salt to kind of lead you. I will always say salt to taste is like the #1 way to go, but I like to give you like a ballpark. So we're starting with 1/2 teaspoon of salt. But I'm gonna grate in the zucchini after so you can kind of see the texture that I want it to create. Because zucchini chimichurri is like new-ish. It's not the most normal thing you're gonna encounter. Now, one thing to note about cilantro stems, which I've just chucked the stems in here with the cilantro, is that it tastes the same as cilantro. Parsley stems, cilantro stems, they taste the same. It's when you get into basil and mint stem territory that's where you need to be careful. But they do take a little bit longer to pulse up, so I check every now and then to make sure that the stems are blending in. So you'll see, I'll do a close-up, but this is like a little bit light green. And for me, that's a good signaler that you want just like a touch more liquid to help everything blend. The zucchini is gonna add a lot of moisture though, so what I'm gonna do is get this as smooth as possible, put it into a bowl, add the zucchini, and then adjust my vinegar and olive oil from there. Let's get this in there. I'm gonna grate 1/2 zucchini into the chimichurri, and the reason I'm making you do this annoying separate step instead of just chucking it all in the food processor is the food processor would kind of blend it all together into like a clumpy sauce. With this, especially since we're using a rasp style grater, it's gonna be really fine, a really nice texture, and kind of release all of the zucchini's moisture instead of emulsifying it with the olive oil and the vinegar. So you're actually getting a much better texture in the sauce. Because if it was all blended together, it would all be smooth, but in a way you wouldn't want it, like a gummy kind of smooth. And we want to make sure to get all the zucchini's water. And I got this sauce making opinion because I kept making these salad dressings that came out like way too thick. It's not that I'm like a zucchini dressing enthusiast, but I just like that zucchini will just make something a lot thinner. I'm gonna add a touch more olive oil and, where is she? Got it. A little bit more red wine vinegar, like a tablespoon apiece. It's gonna need half a teaspoon more salt as well. No matter what, dried oregano is always gonna give like a pizza place kind of kick to something. Maybe that's just me and my brain and how I equate dried oregano to pizza, and nobody can like take that away from me. But I know this is a chimichurri style sauce. Like I know that. There's jalapeno, there's cilantro, but like the oregano, I'm just like, okay, Papa John's. We got zucchini sauce. It's chunky but loose, which is not a word you probably want to hear on a YouTube cooking show. So I'm gonna toss this in the fridge, let it hang out, and then our vegetables. I'm getting to cutting board level. That's how passionate I am about our next two topics of conversation, which is the most misunderstood vegetables, probably fruits. I don't care. The most misunderstood produce of all time. The eggplant, any variety, and the zucchini, any variety. And that is because universally, you can fight me on this, these vegetables are better cooked. But also, they are in season when it is 172 degrees outside. So the last thing you want to do is cook. So today, I'm gonna be slicing them, and we're gonna be cooking them, but we're gonna be serving them chilled. And they also get a lot of flack for being very wet vegetables. I am not gonna waste your time by telling you to draw any moisture out of these. We are gonna harness the wet. And I might trademark that because some OnlyFans somebody's gonna take that from me. A lot of recipes will tell you to salt the eggplant, draw out the moisture. I have neither the patience nor the salt because that's a thing that we're buying at the grocery store, and grocery stores are expensive. So I have neither the resources nor the time nor the energy to draw moisture out of my eggplants. In some historic recipes, I call for it, and that's because I wanted to be correct. Because I had a pipe dream that if I was following all chef rules, then maybe they would have me as a guest star on The Bear. But things are not looking good there. So anyways, the eggplant, we're gonna cook the bejesus out of it, along with the zucchini. And what that does is it's gonna take this really tender vegetable and it's gonna make it, in the words of Hetty McKinnon, I think she was describing vegetables in her most recent newsletter as like rich and supple. And I feel like since she's a writer, she can say supple, and I can just quote her saying supple and it won't be weird because the word is not coming from my mouth direct. Do you know? So we're just gonna be cutting the eggplant into pieces that will easily cook down, but also hold their shape. And same with the zucchini. I think medallions are tired. So I'm just gonna cut those into nice, long-ish pieces. And for the peanut gallery, who I know are going to be concerned about me, which thank you, because I am also concerned about me. But if you're worried about like my cutting board being warped or off kilter, it's not my cutting board that's like shaking, it's the countertop that's warped. And I'm grafting hard for somebody to get me new countertops. Not like you, somebody, but like a brand like KitchenAid. Would KitchenAid wanna get me a kitchen reno? And there's always some level of concern, especially when I'm making cuts that will give you pieces that are largely uneven in size. Like I'm talking like a cut like this versus a cut like this, which is just a little baby of it. There's always the concern of, aren't you following the rule of shouldn't all your cuts be the same so that they all cook evenly? And that's a great rule to keep by, especially with things like tofu or cauliflower. But here, with vegetables like this, as long as the thickness is the same, you don't really have to worry about surface area being the same, if that makes sense. So they're all gonna be around the same thickness. But since the surface area isn't like 360, like it would be on, say, a cube of tofu or whatever, the sizes don't have to be crazily even. Also, I think a common theme of my episodes is going to be hydrating. So if you at home have water next to you, I see that Stanley cup, I see that LaCroix, just like have a sip with me, because otherwise I would forget and I'd pass out halfway through this, and we can't have that because I still have so many ingredients. Lastly, we have 1 can of chickpeas. Past me bought organic and like, okay, good for me. It doesn't matter. And then 12 ounces of halloumi cheese. I'm really in a halloumi phase, but that's because every time I see like a cilantro-based sauce or a cilantro-based recipe, I'm just like, that'd be good with halloumi. We're gonna cube up the halloumi so that it's the same size as the chickpeas. One big skillet and the medium heat. I'm gonna say just 2 tablespoons of olive oil for this first part, and there's gonna be an order of operation to this. Halloumi is gonna go in first. If it hits and you hear that sizzle, you're in good shape. This might actually be too sizzly, so I'm gonna turn down the heat a little. Shake that out so every piece is touching the surface of the pan. And we're gonna leave that untouched for like 4 to 5 minutes while at least one side of the halloumi gets brown. Once it's brown, just mix it all up, and don't worry about any pieces clumping together. They'll be pretty easy to break apart. And then I rinsed our chickpeas and let them dry a little bit. You want them dry to avoid any water, oil, chickpea collision and that causing general chaos, but we're gonna add those in. These don't need to gain as much color. It's really just so that any tinned chickpea flavor, we kind of just cook that off. Also, just like, what a combo. Like beans and cheese. I have so many people who comment like, oh my god, beans and cheese sounds like my digestive nightmare. Sounds like my dream. I have a stomach of steel though. We're gonna transfer that into a bowl. You don't need to wipe out the pan because in here is going all of our zucchini and eggplant and all the things with so much moisture that we didn't get rid of. So really we're gonna make that moisture work for us. It's gonna, in a weird way, not deglaze this pan, but it's gonna make sure that all the scraps in this pan that you're like, oh, should I clean that out? They're gonna be taken care of. The one thing is that I'm adding a decent amount of oil, and that's because eggplant, not zucchini, zucchini doesn't have this problem, but eggplant likes to grab oil like a sponge and then not let go. So I say 3 tablespoons is good here, and I'm gonna add splashes of water to help the eggplant cook. I used to add a ton of oil, and then as I saw that eggplant would just pick it up and not let it go, I was like, I don't know if I want that in my healthy-ish salad. Another thing, I'm cooking like a lot of vegetables in one reasonably sized pan. That's because I do want them to steam with each other. If every single piece doesn't get even browning, not the end of the world. If they all steam together into like a beautiful soft texture, I'll be happy with that. A half a teaspoon of salt in there. Whenever in a recipe I call for a pinch of salt, I do a very dramatic pinch, and you can always bet that a pinch is about half a teaspoon. Somebody asked that in a social media video, and I thought it was a really good question. Our oil's already gone to some greedy eggplant pieces. Okay, so this is gonna be a 15-minute job, so I'm gonna get our pearl couscous boiling while this is going on. I forget about how ugly it is all the time. And I'm doing a cup of pearl couscous, which I just treat like pasta. It'll go in for about 8 minutes, and then I'm gonna strain it out. Now I put my hair back because, as you can see, I'm working. When the eggplant and zucchini have halved in size, then it's time to start, you know, moving them around a bit more, making sure we're getting even browning. Oh yeah, there's like a moment where the eggplant just like, I don't know how to explain it, it like collapses, and the zucchini collapses, and you're like, oh, I made it. I made it to the point where I can stir without fear. You know, like nothing's gonna break now that I'm stirring. Everything is the texture it's supposed to be. This looks pretty good. This is where we pause, because I need to clean my cutting board, and everything needs to chill. Like, chill in the way that I need to chill emotionally and physically, but also chill in the fridge, because I don't think you want to eat this hot. Reason number one, the chimichurri will get like, just cold dressing on super hot food, not great. Reason number 2, I want to add a bunch of herbs like basil and mint, and those both turn black when confronted with heat. And reason number 3, it's just going to be so much better. Now if we do the assembly part correctly, this could look pretty cool. I cannot believe I took a bite and did not film it and invite you to join me. It is a mistake I will never make again. But we have just a phenomenal couscous salad that is looking so disappointing because green sauce mayhem. And this is why in all my short form videos and my staging, I save a little green saucy sauce for like the drizzling on top because it makes everything look better. Right now, it looks great, but to save any salad that needs a little like zhuzh, and also just for flavor and micronutrients and everything amazing, we're gonna add mint and basil. My 2 favorite things in the whole wide world, besides you. I wrote about this in my cookbook actually. Mint and basil are what I call pair ingredients. Together, they level up dishes in a really sneaky way. I have more herbs that I could put on this that I probably am going to. But like, I am extremely happy with this. The flavor is kind of like, it's not totally chimichurri adjacent. You definitely don't get overpowered with the oregano like I mentioned at the beginning. It's kind of fun to have zucchini throughout, like, so having that in the sauce made it a really nice texture. And then the eggplant just melts into everything. So even if you're not an eggplant fan, you're not gonna be encountering like really big pieces of eggplant in this. It's very much like the eggplant is a supporting actor. And I'm not lying, like mint and basil, they come in at the end, but you really do need them. And then beans and cheese make everything a full meal. And if you don't want the cheese, I always say tofu's a great sub for halloumi. You treat it the exact same, and then this is a completely plant-based recipe. Wow, talk about the power of vegetables. And I'm looking at like my serving sizes. I've got lunch for the week. I'd say this serves 4. A happy family of 4. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video where I can also feed your family of 4. Even if your family of 4 is just you eating 4 meals throughout the week. Because currently that's my family of 4. Anyway, like and subscribe.